Welcome to BaseballGuys.com. I'm your host on Around the Horn, Ray Flowers. Welcome to the 2013 baseball season. I figured it's time to break out the old video camera, let you look at this ugly mug with his San Francisco Giants World Series championship hat on. Let's get into the 2013 season, and thanks again for joining me at BaseballGuys.com. Oh, and by the way, before I even get into the analysis, thank you for everyone's positive response. The draft guide went phenomenal this year, 150 plus pages in a PDF form. All of those rankings, over 650 players, mixed league, NL, AL. Tremendous response. I really appreciate that from everyone. Look forward to having an even better option for you all in 2014. Also want to say thank you to all the experts that I've been able to participate in all these leagues with. Go to the Fantasy University section at BaseballGuys.com for my rundown of all the teams I put together. Special thanks to Steve Gardner with Labor. Love doing that in early March down in Arizona. Obviously to the fellows at Tout Wars in New York in late March. Kreutzer, Erickson, Michael, Chandler, thank you all for the invite. Really tremendous time. And let me say this industry is filled with some of the best people you've ever met. Okay. Oh, and you can follow me too in a couple of places. Obviously, BaseballGuys.com, on Twitter, at BaseballGuys, and radio show. I know, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, they gave me a job. I've had it for a few years if you didn't know that. Sirius 210, XM 87, Monday through Friday, you can hear me on there, 5 o'clock Eastern Time. So give me a listen. Hopefully you'd like it. Carlos Gomez. All right, everyone loves Carlos Gomez. 19 home runs, 37 steals last year. Everyone's predicting 2040 this year. Why? He had 415 at-bats last year. Obviously, if he gets 600 this year, he's doing 2040. I've said this before, and I'll repeat it. Carlos Gomez can't hit. I'm not saying he can't home runs. I'm not saying he's not fast. I'm not saying he's not a great defender. All that's true, but he can't hit. His walk-to-strikeout ratio is half of the big league average. His contact rate is barely 76%. And the league average is 79%. He's terribly undisciplined at the plate. He pretty much swings for home runs all the time. I don't think he's got much of a shot to hit 250. I'd be shocked if he had a 320 on-base percentage, which isn't even league average. That is the type of game that plays when your team has no one else to turn to, but long streaks of ineffectiveness are coming down the pipe for him. We'll talk about a couple of guys later that were being taken much later in drafts that I think are just as good a chance of having a solid season this year. I think Carlos Gomez, talented, but someone who's overdrafted this season. And speaking of overdrafted guys, that's kind of what I want to go through with you all today. Pick a guy out at each position that, according to average draft position numbers in the National Fantasy Baseball Championship, the NFBC, some guys that I believe were drafted a little lower than they should have been, and guys that might be very effective for you in 2013. Start at the catcher position. Jason Castro, 29th at the catcher position. 29th, folks. That means if you're in a 12, 14-team league, he's not even being drafted as a starter in a two-catcher league. He's going to play a lot with the Astros. He looks to be healthy. He's over his leg issues. He can hit 260 with 15 home runs. Nothing great. Nothing exciting. But hey, as the 29th catcher off the board, I'm interested in that. Brandon Belt's another guy I'm interested in. You can see his player profile at BaseballGuys.com. That was up over the weekend. 15-15 type of player, maybe 20-15, maybe 280 plus batting average. I wrote about him in the piece there, mentioned some growth that he showed last year, some consistency that he showed last year. I believe his upside in the home run column is capped by his home ballpark. But Brandon Belt, as the 21st guy off the board, he slots in very, very well as a corner infield option right now. Big fan of that choice. Kelly Johnson, 20th at the second base position. Well, Ray, he's a 210 hitter, so who cares? Oh, yeah, the batting average is an issue. But he has seen some time in spring in the outfield, so he might add dual position eligibility. And there's also this. 16 home runs, 13 steals. He has done that each of the last 3 seasons. 2 second basemen in baseball have done that. 16, 13, each of the last 3 years. Kelly Johnson, Brandon Phillips. Remember. Manny Machado, 16th at the third base position. Manny Machado is an elite prospect, folks. Number 3 overall selection in the 2010 draft. And no one's talking about him. 16th at the position, meaning in the 15-team league, he's not even being drafted as a starter. Now, he didn't blow up when he was called up last year by the Orioles, but he was solid and he was effective. And unlike guys like Profar, or Myers, or Bundy, Machado's got a job in the big league level. Really surprising how many people are willing to take a chance on Myers or on Profar this year, but not talking about Manny Machado. Manny Machado has that job at third base with the Orioles, and he is every bit the prospect of the other 2 guys. 2020 upside for Machado at some point. Not saying it happens this year, but he is a much, much better option for 2013 than some of the heralded youngsters that people drafted too highly. Stephen Drew, not being drafted highly enough, 23rd at the shortstop position. Now, I know Drew has had some concussion woes in spring. I know he's played 165 games the last 3 years because of injury. He is a risk. But as the 23rd shortstop off the board, I'm willing to take that risk. He's on a 1-year deal with the Red Sox. Fenway's a good place to hit. He's got to reestablish his value. In his career, if you take his career best from each season, we're talking 291, 21 home runs, 67 RBIs, 91 runs scored, 10 steals. He does 80% of that this year. He's a great bargain as the 23rd shortstop off the board. In the outfield, Michael Brantley, 75th overall. Go to the player profile section of BaseballGuys.com for more on why he might be a good selection. Chris Young at 82, Justin Maxwell at 83. These are the same 2 guys that I was referencing earlier when I talked about Carlos Gomez. I'm telling you, folks, Maxwell and Young had the same opportunity at success this year as Carlos Gomez did, or does, and they were drafted more than 2 times later than Gomez. So that's what the bargain is. Both Young and Maxwell can be 2020 contenders. Young has been 2020 multiple times. He's almost been 30-30 on occasion. So those 2 guys, Maxwell and Young, much better values in my opinion than people can spend early on Carlos Gomez. And then finally, Franklin Gutierrez, another player who's got 2020 upside, probably more like 15-15. Very good defender, always hurt. If he can stay healthy for the Mariners, a very, very strong bench option, a reserve type of pick in a 12-team mixed league. On the hill, James McDonald, 79th at the starting pitcher position. Player profile on him at BaseballGuys.com. Edison Volquez, 83rd at the position. Edison Volquez, last year at home at Petco, making him at least this streaming option when he pitches at home. A 2.9 ERA, a 1.2 whip, and 99 strikeouts in 101 innings. Elite pitching folks. Vance Worley, 99th. Not going to break out and win the Cy Young Award or anything like that, but very solid, very consistent, and pitching in a solid place with the Twins. And then Scott Kazmir at 139th. Okay, I'm kidding. Scott Kazmir is not one of those guys. I know people are excited about Scott Kazmir. He's thrown, 150 innings the last 3 seasons. Velocity is a little bit higher than it had been, still nowhere near where it was. If you want to take a shot on Kazmir, go for it. I'm not in that group. And then finally in the bullpen, Jake McGee, 58th, the relief pitcher position. I believe the last 7 years, a different pitcher has led the Rays in state every season. Obviously, Fernando Rodney goes into the year after having his phenomenal 2012 season with a lot of confidence. Maybe it'd be Jake McGee. It might be Joe Peralta. But Jake McGee, tremendous season in 2012. Look up his numbers if you don't believe me. Mike Adams, 68th overall. Jonathan Papelbon, horrible at the start of spring, has righted the ship. Obviously, Papelbon's keeping that job barring injury. But Mike Adams, if he is healthy, one of the best right-handed relief pitchers in baseball. Look at his ratios. Phenomenal. And then finally, Jose Barris is the closer right now with the Astros. 10-plus strikeouts per 9 innings the last 3 years. A skill set very similar to Carlos Marmol, though. Lots of strikeouts, lots of walks. If Barris is locked in at the start, he could have a big safe season for the Astros. If he isn't, if he struggles, he could be out of that role in a couple of weeks. Who's the fallback option? Not really sure, but I like Reiner Cruz. I don't know if you know how to spell his name. I probably didn't even know who he was before I mentioned him. 107th at the relief pitcher position. A big arm, and again, the guy I would expect to take over in Houston if things don't work out with Barris. Worth a look off the waiver wire. At least put him on your watch list for 2013. I'm Ray Flowers. It is BaseballGuys.com. Thanks for joining me on the Round the Horn. Best of luck to all of you in the 2013 season. Let's play ball.